How often do you find yourself in this situation? Tomorrow you've got a really important morning tea at work, but all you've got in your fridge is beer and butter and cocoa and sugar, sour cream, some eggs, vanilla extract, flour and salt, and some baking soda, and also cream cheese and icing sugar. Hopefully this precise situation arises a lot, because otherwise this video might be kind of pointless. But otherwise, if you want to see how we can turn all this into a cake, keep watching. First, we preheat the oven to a cool 180 degrees Celsius. Metric the hell out of that. Today we're making a rich dark chocolate cake out of Stout Beer. We're going to boil that beer in a saucepan. This will be one with a proper handle. Put in 250 ml of this dark beer. Normally you'd use Guinness, but I'm just not. While that heats up, you just start spooning in some of the butter. And also you can drink some of the beer if you want. Make sure to add the butter a tablespoon at a time to allow it to melt in the boiling beer mix. This is taking a long time to melt the butter in the cold beer, and it's for this reason that you should probably do it with a warm beer. That way you can enjoy the wholesome flavour a lot better as well. It's also why you don't leave your spoon handle sitting in the hot flame, fire hot, metal conductive. So at this point you can see that all of the butter is pretty much melted, and now we're going to add our cocoa. And we're going to whisk that in very carefully because I didn't use a big enough saucepan. The mixture should be stirred at the boil until all the cocoa has dissolved. And now in a step that I think will really push the limits of the capacity of this saucepan, I'm going to add 400 grams of sugar. Voila, it fits. And Sugar Island slowly gets eroded into the rising waters of the chocolate ocean. The next step, we're going to beat these eggs with the sour cream. I know it sounds weird, but just trust me on this. This is where, if you have a mixer, use it. Add almost exactly 142 milliliters of sour cream to the eggs, and don't worry, this isn't an exact science. Here the recipe calls for a little bit of vanilla extract. It says to put in 1 whole tablespoon. However, I've only got about half of a teaspoon, so to make up for the flavour, I'm also going to add a little bit of rum. You can add rum to pretty much anything to have a good time. Check this out. Boring old eggs and sour cream mix. Add rum, and wahoo! Now is a good time. Now if you're using a mixer or doing it by hand, this next stage is going to look wrong. And that's because the mixture is going to curdle, and you just can't help that. Yeah, it's just what happens with sour cream. Yes. Now I know at this point it looks great, looks beautiful, looks very appetizing. We're now going to pour in this molten sugar, butter, chocolate, beer mix. Now time is of the essence, because what's happening is that the hot beer is cooking the eggs. Just going to cool that mixture down, adding in some flour. With half a teaspoon of salt. A teaspoon and a half of bicarbonate of soda, or baking soda. That was 3. I'll stop counting. Take out half of one. We should be good. Blitz the mix for a short period of time. You don't want to overmix, but due to the amount of hot liquid, lumps can form. And just like that, we have cake. So now we're going to cook it for a little while. Pour your batter into a lined cake tin. Depending on the diameter, the cook time will vary. I'm using like a 23 centimeter tray or something. Now already this cake tastes amazing. It's going to taste way better when it's cooked. So then we're going to whack it into this oven.
This cake can take 45 minutes to an hour to cook, and you can test this by putting in a skewer and seeing if it comes out clean. But while it's cooking, I prepare the icing, starting with 300 grams of cream cheese, which I beat to loosen it up. It's a weird sentence. And then I add 150 grams of icing sugar and carefully blitz that before tipping in 125 ml of cream. I blitz that all together and BAM! It's tasty icing. Now that's all over for tonight. The cake has an 11-kilometre bike ride in the morning, where it will then be iced in a vain, desperate hope for the acceptance of my colleagues, which I so fiercely crave. The morning is dark and full of terrors, much like the smooth, chocolatey beer which I used in this recipe, an oak-aged stout made by a local brewery in New Zealand named Moa. And I made it, and the cake survived too, and with breakfast just around the corner, it's time to plate this sucker up and baptize it in the cream cheese icing. The logic of this pairing is that the dark, moist cake represents the stout beer, and the light, creamy icing is the frothy head. However, due to the mix I whipped up, it looks a little bit like the byproduct of a different kind of head, if you know what I mean. You know what I mean. And there we have it, folks, one super rich cake, and the reason that I need to ride 11 kilometers every day. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I'm about to enjoy giving my workmates diabetes. Thank you very much, and tune in another time for another thing that we might make some other time. Cheers!